the Antichrist in every age, from the 1st century to the 21st. There is no doubt that the Antichrist has already been born. He is in his early years, and, once he reaches maturity, he will attain supreme power. This striking statement was recorded by Bishop Martin of Tours in the 4th century, nearly 1,700 years ago. What is fascinating is that Martin was neither the first nor the last to be absolutely convinced that the Antichrist was already walking among humanity. Across the centuries, countless individuals have been identified with this feared and mysterious figure. In every era, men and women projected their anxieties, political rivalries, and religious expectations onto rulers, generals, and charismatic personalities who seem to embody the description of this ultimate enemy of faith. In this journey, we will revisit some of these so-called antichrists of each age, figures ranging from cruel Roman emperors to French generals who changed the course of Europe, from medieval popes and religious reformers to modern dictators and even business magnates of the technological era. But before we dive into that long list, it is crucial to step back for a moment and understand where this idea actually comes from, and why it remains so persistent and powerful in the human imagination. The origin of the concept. Surprisingly, the word Antichrist does not appear where most people expect to find it. It is not mentioned in the Gospels, not in the book of Revelation, and not in Paul's letters. In fact, the term occurs only 5 times in the entire Bible, and only within the letters attributed to John. In those brief references, the author speaks of an Antichrist who is yet to come, but also declares that many Antichrists have already appeared. In other words, the word is used both in the singular and in the plural, simultaneously pointing to the present and to the future. For John, the Antichrist was not necessarily a single monstrous figure, but anyone who denied that Jesus was the Messiah or who taught doctrines contrary to the apostolic faith. This shows that, at its root, Antichrist was more of a theological concept than a historical character. There is no mention in John's letters of a global government, of a charismatic leader deceiving nations, or of someone pretending to be Christ himself. These more familiar images, which dominate the modern imagination, came from other biblical texts and, more importantly, from centuries of interpretation, tradition, and speculation. From false Christs to the man of lawlessness. In the Gospels of Matthew and Mark, Jesus warns about false Christs who would come saying, "I am the Christ," deceiving many. The emphasis there is on religious impostors, who would usurp Christ's role, not yet on a single villain embodying ultimate evil. A closer parallel to our modern idea of the Antichrist appears in 2 Thessalonians, where Paul describes the man of lawlessness, also called the son of perdition. This adversary would rise against everything called God, seat himself in God's temple, and claim divinity for himself. The book of Revelation echoes this figure with the beast who seduces nations, receives authority over peoples and tribes, and is worshipped in place of God. Still, in none of these passages is the word Antichrist actually used. The merging of all these images into a single terrifying end-time character was the work of tradition and theology over the centuries. Gradually, different biblical references were stitched together to create the figure of a single ultimate enemy of Christ. A long list of suspects. From that point onward, history became a gallery of suspects. The first and perhaps most famous was the Emperor Nero. By the time Revelation was written, Nero was already dead, but rumors spread that he had not truly perished. Some claimed he was in hiding, preparing to return. Others insisted he would rise from the underworld itself. Christian writers of the 3rd and 4th centuries treated this possibility with surprising seriousness. Later, other emperors notorious for persecuting Christians, such as Domitian and Decius, were also labeled antichrists. Even within the church itself, leaders were accused. The presbyter, condemned at the Council of Nicaea for teaching that Christ was not of the same divine nature as the Father, was branded the Antichrist by his theological opponents. During the Middle Ages, imagination expanded further. Writings of that era claimed the Antichrist would be born in Babylon, rebuild the temple in Jerusalem, and demand divine worship. It was also in this period that the papacy first came under accusation. Political enemies and religious rivals declared that certain popes were the Antichrist incarnate. These charges intensified during the Protestant Reformation. Reformers like Martin Luther and John Calvin argued that the papacy itself, the institution, not just an individual pope, was the Antichrist. According to them, every pope from beginning to end represented the great adversary described in the New Testament. Unsurprisingly, Catholic leaders returned the accusation, identifying Luther and other reformers as antichrists in turn. In the following centuries, the list grew dramatically. In England, Oliver Cromwell was declared the Antichrist in pamphlets and tracts. Napoleon Bonaparte, at the height of his power, was also singled out, with elaborate calculations of the number 666 being applied to his name. In the 20th century, during the Cold War, some Christians pointed to Mikhail Gorbachev, even claiming the mark on his forehead was the mark of the beast. Saddam Hussein, who attempted to rebuild Babylon, was also suspected. And in the 21st century, names such as French President Emmanuel Macron and even tech entrepreneur Elon Musk have been added to the ever-growing catalogue of suspects. Why do we always expect the Antichrist? But the bigger question remains, why does this speculation never vanish? Why does every generation believe the Antichrist is already alive, working behind the scenes, ready to reveal himself? One reason is political utility. To brand an opponent as the Antichrist is a powerful weapon to strip them of legitimacy. Such a label simplifies complex debates and reduces them to a cosmic struggle between good and evil. Another reason is psychological and social. In times of crisis, the belief that current suffering is part of a divine plan offers comfort and hope. As historian Robert Fuller points out, apocalyptic thought frames crises within a narrative of victory. Evil may seem triumphant now, but its defeat is assured. This explains why people always expect the Antichrist to appear in their own lifetime, not in some distant future. If his coming were centuries away, the urgency would fade, and the idea would lose much of its emotional power. That is why Martin of Tours declared that the Antichrist was already alive in his own time. And it is the same reason why, today, speculation centers on figures like Macron, Musk, or even Pope Francis. While accusations against Nero or Napoleon feel almost quaint, even absurd. Conclusion: the list of suspects is endless, and it will continue to grow. Besides the names already mentioned, others such as Saladin and Attila the Hun have also been called antichrists in their time. Beyond specific individuals, there are allegorical interpretations, like that of Origen of Alexandria, who saw the Antichrist as a spiritual force present in every age, and preterist interpretations, which argued that the apocalyptic prophecies were fulfilled long ago. What is undeniable is that, from the 1st century to today, the idea of the Antichrist has remained alive, shaping beliefs, fueling fears, and serving as a mirror for the anxieties of each generation. Perhaps, in the end, what we call the Antichrist is not a single figure waiting to be revealed at the end of history, but rather the shadow each era casts upon itself. And so the question remains for us today: do you believe the Antichrist is already among us, or that he is still yet to come? Thank you so much for watching and reflecting on this journey. It is always a joy to share the Word of God with you. If this message touched your heart, please leave a like. It greatly helps this channel reach more people. Share this video with friends and family, so that more lives can be touched by the truth of the gospel. And if you haven't subscribed yet, take a moment to do so and activate the notification bell so you won't miss the next studies. May God richly bless you and your family.